Are you a fan of the Ricmotech World Challenge? Now is your chance to show off your favorite Sim Racing World Challenge by visiting our online store. With clothing and apparel for women and men in all sizes, merchandise and gift items like coffee mugs, laptop skins, mouse pads, and many more items to display your passion for sports car sim racing. Visit us today at ExtremeMotorsports99.com and click on the online store button. Thank you for watching and supporting the Ricmotech World Challenge.
Hello everybody, welcome to Apex Racing TV and welcome to the Ricmotech World Challenge Series here at the Daytona International Speedway in the United States. Hello everybody, good evening if you're in the United States, good morning if you're in the United Kingdom. I'm Andrew Woodhouse and supposed to be joined by Tyler Vickery, hopefully he'll be along soon. But for now, it's Adam Bath for the next few minutes at least. And Adam, well, Daytona, it's always a scene of some great racing on Apex Racing TV and we may see it again here.
Indeed, yeah, and it's the opening race. It's the opening race meeting of a brand new season, is it, of the Ricmotech World GT Challenge? And a few things have changed. Obviously, we've moved away from the Mustangs and whatnot that we raced in the previous season, and we've now gone for two classes of GT Daytona and GT Le Mans. So, should be interesting. Decent sized field that we've got for this opening race, and a 135-minute one as well.
You're not bad at all. 14 teams it looks like are going to take the start here. We are going to get the grid momentarily. Just finishing up in qualifying, you can see that let's just have a quick look. We haven't got actually any of the drivers actually available. Oh, okay, so Tyler Vickery is going to be with us in about 15 minutes. So Adam, if you're happy to stick around for 15 minutes or so, we'll be able to get this one underway. This track is a strange one, isn't it? How do you set the car up for it? Because you have the tight hairpins, you have two of them, you have some fast corners in the middle of the lap, you have the bus stop, but then you have these great big flat out sections on the NASCAR oval that really, top speed is key.
I wonder if any of these drivers raced in the Daytona 24 hours, because I'm sure
this track is a strange one.
Is definitely figured out how to negotiate the infield and the oval section, because you're right, got to make sure that you can first of all slow the car down and handle the tricky stuff, but then make sure that you've got some decent top end speed for when you go through the tri-oval and get into turn one again. So it's all about finding that balance, and I'm sure we will be finding out who's been able to find that to perfection over this long race that we've got ahead of us.
Well, we do have the grid on the screen, and Stephen Thomas has put the Driftline Racing car on pole position, 142.435. It's very close with Jim List in D2D Motorsports Gold. 0.005 was the margin. Very, very close there. Eric Violet in third, Edgar Sancinelli in fourth, and then Tyler Schiffler in fifth. Into the other class then, who confusingly on my timing screen are the opposite colour to what they are on the overlay, so that's helpful for me. Travis Schwenke in the Excite Energy Racing car is in P6. Then it's Mike Dam in the Cryptogy orange car, who's on the front row, of course, for that class. And then Chris Torman in 8th, Russell Rudd at 9th, Dave Fitzgerald in 10th, Michael Monaghan is in 11th, Raymond Bader Jr. is in 12th, and then Jennifer McDonald in 13th, and Ryan Cobb will be starting as I believe as a steward, as normal. That is for Ryan Cobb. But yeah, close qualifying there does show that these cars are very, very evenly matched, Adam, and we do see that quite a lot here, don't we?
Yeah, we do. An oval like this, it's obviously going to be very close as we look at Eric Violet there in the D2D Motorsports Blue. We go on board with him, in fact, as we get rolling on the parade lap. Interesting how the safety car pulls them away now, but obviously they're going to, don't know what's going on now, they're going to sort each other out, I think. I think that's the GT That's the GT Daytona going through. Is then GT
now
Le Mans at the back? Not too sure.
I'll just explain to you what I'm seeing here, because I've got on the timing screen, I've got the fastest class in red and the second class in green, but on the overlay it's the other way around. So this is going to be great, isn't it, for me, trying to figure this one out when I'm going to be half asleep, no doubt, in a couple of hours' time. But onto the famous banking they go, and it's the GTD, isn't it, that are at the front then? Is that right? No.
GT Le Mans, I think, are at the front.
So yes, GT Le Mans are at the front, but they qualified slightly slower. And here we go anyway. Travis Schwenke is going to bring us to the green here. And we're underway. At Daytona for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Into turn one they come. Schwenke, then Dam, then Torman, then Ruddock. Already Ruddock's been taken by Dave Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald through into fourth place in the Porsche. Ferrari coming back up the inside again and going through. He left the door open there, Fitzgerald, but nobody really wants to get into any bother on the opening lap. And then it's the GTDs going into turn one. Very nearly Eric Violet, very nearly missing his braking point. Almost careered into the back of his teammate there.
Good start by those guys. Very heavily dominated by Mercedes in the GTD category. In fact, they are pretty much all Mercedes, apart from Sancinelli at the back, who's in the Ferrari. So I believe Sam Fitzpatrick was saying in the World GT Championship earlier that the Ferrari has got the top end speed. So it'll be interesting to see once we get onto the banking how the Ferrari is going to hold out. But for now, it's definitely a Porsche dominance at the front, in the front two positions anyway. Schwenke and Dam leading them into the bus stop chicane.
Now Travis Schwenke and Mike Dam, they usually have these battles, don't they, in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series of being very close together for a lot of laps. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, this, isn't it, to see whether actually how that pans out. We don't reckon they're going to really go wheel to wheel very much, do we, based on the history of it? We think it's more going to be about that strategy and obviously making sure that you get to the end with all the panels straight on the car, as Schwenke sets the fastest lap, unsurprisingly, 149.1. You can see on the track map, Adam, that they have started in quite a stagger, really.
Yeah, they have. If you look on the map there, the GTDs are only just coming through NASCAR turn 3 and going into turn 4 now on their way towards the tri-oval. So it's not going to be like the usual Ricmotech Sports Car Series race where we see the cars getting laps. I think that
this
the pace...
is going to be... These are actually faster, aren't they? So the GTDs are actually faster.
So the GT
this track, but I wonder if
it's
a track-specific thing, this, though. I wonder if it's to do with the layout of this circuit, because surely starting the GTLMs at the front would surely indicate that the series organisers believe that they should be the higher class. But in this occasion, I don't think necessarily that's going to be the case.
Well, it's interesting because I'm guessing the Porsches and the Ferraris in the top class, in the GT Le Mans class, are the actual GTE spec cars, while Mercedes and the Ferraris and the GT Daytonas will be GT3s.
Yeah, they are. They're just GT3 cars, I believe. But this is the thing. Stephen Thomas qualified on pole position, and then basically had to relinquish it because they had to start behind the others. So it'll be interesting to see what the lap times are like. Of course, the first lap, very difficult to see exactly what's going on because there's a battle here. Jennifer McDonald and Dave Fitzgerald. I wonder if Fitzgerald picked up a slowdown in the bus stop chicane. That will be that is probably quite likely, to be honest.
Could be indeed. Here's the leader in GT Daytona anyway. Steve Thomas and Jim List already cutting themselves adrift from the rest of the field as we come out of NASCAR turn 4 now. D2D Motorsports Gold versus Motorsports Blue going on here down the front straight.
We are going to get a move. past the tri-oval and then into turn 1. Hard on the brakes for both. Really pushing this Mercedes hard in the early going. Wide he goes. Thomas, and he nearly loses it. And here comes List. He's side by side. This is a tough section to go side by side, Adam.
On the brakes. I think he's going to get him moved on around the outside.
Oh,
there,
great drive.
Jim List. Going to get a cut back on the exit.
He got a really wonderful
Vigus has just towed back to the pits.
Clint Vigus, an early one. Dave Fitzgerald looks like he's crashed as well. I'm just going to see what happened with this particular battle. Oh man, that is very, very close. This is lap 3. 2 hours and 15 minutes. We love it.
Oh, you can see the bump that they have to go over there to get onto the tri-oval. Stephen Thomas's car is looking a bit leery. Here's a replay of what happened to Dave Fitzgerald. Going into the horseshoe, off the brakes.
Up. Oh, just loses the rear. How many times do we hear about the Porsche though? Just in general, Adam, that it basically tries to kill you a lot of the time.
I was talking to Michael Blake after the World GT race earlier, and he was just saying exactly that. Couldn't basically trying to get through the kink, and the car was trying to kill him.
Yeah, sounds about right. It's rear engine though as well. It's always a tough one to handle. Raymond Bader Jr. The Ford. The only Ford in the field actually. In this one. I'm going to bring the gaps up for you as well. So the gap is staying fairly constant. I did see the gap a couple of laps ago between Travis Fenke and Jim List was sat at about 30 seconds. Now 28.7 seconds. Sorry, no, that's wrong, isn't it? It's now, oh sorry, it's now 34 seconds. So it might be going up very, very slowly. So that's a weird situation, isn't it? Where one class is quicker in qualifying and the other seem to be quicker in race trim.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. But either way, Russell Ruddock, Tormund disappeared. He's back again. Going into the bus stop chicane, Flying Tortoise versus Coaxial Racing.
Russell Ruddock was probably hoping he was disqualified then. Just to help him get... I don't know why he'd be disqualified this early on, but yeah, it would have made his life a bit easier anyway, but carries on, does Tormund.
Yeah, he's either that or he's watched our World GT race from Watkins Glen from last week and picked up some tricks.
You don't want to pick up many tricks from race 2 at least, that's for sure. Ruddock versus Thorman again then. Over the line they go, start lap 5. And there is a battle going on in the background. And that is McDonald coming through the field. Past Michael Monaghan, but she's gone wide, Jennifer McDonald, and here comes Monaghan. And he goes through in the Welligan Racing Porsche.
Tell you what, this is good to see. We're so used to seeing these drivers racing Mazda MX-5s and Ford Mustangs. Well, they're in much more powerful machinery and they're getting to grips with it.
No!
A lock-up.
Oh. Well, you can have that. You can have that late apex in some of these hairpins on this track, but it really does actually help you. Look at the advantage Michael Monaghan got, even though he missed the apex completely. But this is where Jennifer McDonald now could potentially close in. Interesting to see. We can see the gap on the screen, just on the 0.6 of a second. What is her slipstream going to be like? It's not strong at the minute, but she's picking it up now. Down to 0.4 nearly. Oh, look how much speed she carries into the bus stop. That Ferrari though, we know that Ferrari from 24 Hours of Le Mans last year. Adam, it's got so much grip.
2 years ago now.
So much grip in that medium speed.
Only got the speed. Mike Dam looks like he might have taken the lead in the other class. We'll stick with this to see if Jennifer McDonald can close the gap. It's down to 0.2. Might even get down to 1/10.
She might not be actually too... I was going to say it might be worth having a little go on the brakes because it looks like she can carry a lot of speed into the faster stuff, but yeah, it stays ahead. We'll go back to this battle for the lead as Mike Dam has taken it. And how was it done? This is how. Through NASCAR turn 4.
It's a replay of how he got it done then. Looks like it might be a pretty straightforward move. Oh, is he gonna cut back to the inside into the first gun? No, he doesn't. So Mike Dam gets the move done, and the Canadian in the Crypto G orange car is through into the lead. 6th position. Oh, I know it says 6 positions gained on the live timing. That's because he had to overtake a whole load of GT Daytonas before we got the race underway.
36 seconds is now the gap. Interestingly, Mike Dam did a 1:42.4 on the previous lap. Jim List at the head of the GTD class, 1:42.9. So yeah, that qualifying pace for them not really coming in at this point. As wide goes Jim List. He's pursued by Stephen Thomas. And as we did on the previous lap, we're going to get a good onboard shot. Now Thomas is getting much more slipstream through the banking than what Jennifer McDonald was. That Mercedes is a big car though, and it really does punch a hole in the air.
He seems to be doing a much better job than the Ferrari was anyway, going into the bus stop. Speaking to iRacing World Championship driver Jamie Fluke a few days ago, and he was talking about the bus stop at the Charlotte Roval and
oh dear,
how that is a killer. But this one, you can really use it to set up a car in front, and can be an overtaking point if you get close. But tell you what, Thomas is getting very close here, but it looks like he might have just reached the breaking point in terms of closing the gap. It looks like it's going to stay around 3 tenths as we come across the line.
I think he may have eased off slightly. Look at the closing speed there under braking. Great confidence by Thomas. Oh, List car twitching all over the place.
Great view this, and really was makes me want to get behind the wheel of one.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know you like your GT3 machinery. It's usually the BMW, isn't it? For yourself.
Yeah.
We need
Give us a new BMW iRacing.
We need that massive BMW in iRacing, don't we? Yeah, it's 3 times the size of all the other cars. That's it. Now, Ruddock and Torman still 7 tenths apart. Monaghan and McDonald are still likewise. But that's a bit closer, isn't it? Jennifer takes so much speed into the bus stop chicane. Just can't seem to quite harness it on the way out, though. I've got to say the day to night transition looks terrific on iRacing. They've really done a good job with it. Here comes the Ferrari then. Can it get within striking distance? No is the answer. Locking up is Monaghan. McDonald continues the pressure. And they do have... no, that's Raymond Bader Jr., isn't it? Just in front of them, yep. So he's really not had a good lap. 143... Oh, it didn't seem that bad, actually. 143.3 as opposed to 143.1 for Monaghan. So this battle's just... Oh, my goodness. Nearly goes into the back of him there, does Monaghan. Oh. And there comes McDonald up the inside. Side by side here.
Great battle so far, and there goes McDonald past Monaghan. That little bit of a lockup going into the second of the hairpins on the infield is what did it, and has given Raymond Bader Jr. a bit of breathing space now. He was getting really hassled. Yeah, he was getting really hassled by both of those two behind. And now, as we look from the rear of the Ferrari of the Ford GT, he's got a very decent 1.1 second buffer now. Not a single cloud in the sky here at Daytona as we go through the bus stop chicane. That stand isn't there anymore.
It's unusual, actually, given that we've been used to sort of iRacing stock graphics textures over the past so many years. It's unusual to see a sky without any clouds in it, but that's what we do have here at Daytona Beach, Florida. And yeah, really tremendous day for racing. And now into the pits then for Monaghan.
Get that pit lane speed limiter on. It's about 55 miles an hour.
Yeah, you don't want to mess that one up. And we see it that you can see at the bottom of the screen. Pit lane time. See what sort of stop it's going to be for him now. I think as it's the first one, I think we'll stick with it. Early stop. You can see just got to wait.
Mike Monaghan. Second, I thought he was doing a driver change then. There's still Monaghan in the car.
I wonder if he's thinking about some clear air, maybe. Revving the nuts off it though. In the pits by the sounds of it. And that's why he's away. 29 points. Oh, dear me. Oh, no. Oh, no. He's gone. Oh, and, he won't be happy we've caught that one on the camera, dear me. And I do apologise, Mike, but we're going to have to see that one again, I believe.
There you go. Caught on camera. First time of the season.
We are definitely going to have to go back and do that again.
Here's a replay then. Hooligan Racing. Looks like that Porsche had tray dishes on the rear wheels because there was just there was no stopping that, did it?
Oh dear. It's one of those things. I shouldn't laugh really because I think everybody's done it. It's embarrassing. And it cost him about 10 seconds. That's one of those ones, isn't it?
Good spin turn though, better than me in the Formula Renault.
It was a hell of a spin turn. But I think he would have rather not had to do it. As that's yeah. Oh dear, Mike, never mind. Hey, it's a long race, that's what we've got to say. It's a long race, you can get that back. Now Jim List, Stephen Thomas. This is the battle for the lead in GTD. And the D is for determination in this Ricmotech Sports World Challenge. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes long. It's going to be some determination needed in the commentary box as well, I believe. As Jim List gets very, very sideways. Almost loses it over those curbs. And in that first sector, you've really got to be, got to be confident with the car. Because even though it's quite an easy section, you can't get complacent.
Where you could really make and gain a lot of time, I believe we've got Tyler Vickery waiting to step into the breach here. We can bring him up.
User was moved to your channel.
Here's a welcome to Tyler Vickery. Tyler, you've just missed a bit of an embarrassing moment for Mike Monaghan in the pits, but no matter. There's still a good 2 hours to go in this one.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on the stream as I do apologize for everyone else on the live stream watch, and kind of a downside when I work at a car wash and have to help close up afterwards. So it kind of makes it a little bit difficult.
Hey, well, don't worry about that because there's plenty of the race to go. That's the saving grace of it, isn't it? You haven't really missed a lot in the grand scheme of it. You've just missed 2 spins, really. That's all we've had. One in the pit lane, one on the racetrack. We've still got 11 cars going on the lead lap. So yeah, there's plenty more to come.
Oh, the pit stop one, the spin on the pit stop. I missed that one, but I heard about the spin on track, and that's never a fun thing.
It's the Porsche, isn't it? Though the Porsche is really one of those one of those difficult cars to handle, especially under acceleration with all the weight on the rear.
Absolutely, I've just seeing it on the live stream now as I'm still trying to get into the session, but I can agree. I've had that situation before.
Jim List and Stephen Thomas battling over the leading GTD. List is in front at the moment, but Thomas all over him, Adam, and I think it's tough because he just can't quite get up to him, can he? It's not. He's perpetually like that half a second behind.
Oh,
I tell you though, if he keeps cooking his tyres like that, he's going to struggle.
Yeah, especially.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Al.
Sorry, I was just going to say that he would have. He's not going to leave too many tyres for his co-driver either. When they get to the pit stop, they might have to spend a bit of time changing them. One of the rules that we didn't really mention at the beginning of the broadcast was that for the season, you do have to have a minimum of 2 drivers per car. You are allowed to run a race by yourself, I think, once, but you do lose a certain percentage of your points at the end of it. So that is one thing we're going to watch out for. And we'll see who these drivers are partnered with throughout the rest of the evening.
Yeah, it's quite a good rule, that, I think. I think it just means that... I think it's good for the drivers as well, because, you know, as much as we have I think all of us have done 2-hour stints before, it's not always the easiest thing to do, so having somebody to share it with is definitely very helpful. Thomas then on the prowl, but again, can't really make any inroads. It's whether he wants to, though. I wonder if he's just slightly lifting off. Maybe he's just saving some fuel behind Jim List.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's lifting off and trying to fuel save, especially in a long race like this. As they're being pretty much close together, Jim List is practically going to be using the full power of his engine to try to get away from Thomas. And meanwhile, with Thomas, if he can just be able to stay up in the draft, especially on the Speedway oval part, he should be able to gain a lot of extra miles on Jim List. So that could be a big advantage for Thomas's team in the long run.
So Adam,
Dropped onto first gear then for that hair.
Yeah. We do have the situation as well where, not so much now, but maybe in 5 to 10 laps time, we're going to get these guys catching the back of the GTLM field, and that's going to be interesting because those are going to be for position, so the GTLM guys might not give up those places lightly.
Yeah,
it just feels like... Sorry. It was it was only a few laps ago where it was about 30 seconds between Jim List and the back of the GT Le Mans cars. So I wonder if those GT3 spec rules, like I think you get traction control, don't you, in GT3?
Yes.
I wonder if that's just giving them the extra time needed to close the gap, because it has been gradually coming down.
The slow corners, I think, certainly that'll help them. Seen quite a lot of locking, haven't we, from the GTLM runners here? So it definitely seems to be giving these guys a bit of an advantage. Thomas closes again to within 2.5 tenths, and yeah, he's either lifting off or topping out. Can't really work out which one, to be honest. Nothing's obvious to me. But yeah, I mean, Tyler, they're surely trying to extend the stints here. I mean, obviously, it's a no-brainer that the longer you go in the opening stint, the better it is later.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, I would almost want to say if Thomas was smart as well, depending on how the tire wear is, if they want to save time as well, like especially if they're not doing a driver swap, if they're able to keep conservative with their tires and not get too aggressive or push, but still can be able to pull the same lap times, they could be able to really overlap with not taking tires and just fuel.
Yeah, because of course that's the these cars. Fuel is definitely the time-consuming bit, and here's Chris Torman again on the back of Russell Ruddock, 0.3 of a second. Looks to be closing in. Adam, I think it's at this point. I think I'll have to let you. I think I'll let you go, mate, and I'll let you go and
Okay.
get some sleep, because I think. Thank you for stepping in for the first part of the race.
No worries. Yeah, I hope it's a good one for you.
Thanks, mate. We'll see you next time.
In a bit.
User disconnected from your channel.
Yeah, Adam Bath there, and good to have him in there for a little bit at least. Anyway, early start for him tomorrow. I know that. So we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Tyler, that Mike Dam and Travis Schwenke, usually in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, they're usually content to sort of battle amongst themselves and not really fight too hard until after the pit stops. And I think that sound strategy has kind of played off quite well again here today. But saying that, Dam's managed to eke out the lead in the last few laps.
Yeah, and especially with the gap being 3.3 seconds right now, it's probably based on, I mean, Mike's probably being a little bit more conservative while Travis is probably doing the same. Just lap time wise, seems like, especially with Travis Schwenke being about 3/10 of a second slower. But
So I think
I
we might have seen why this has happened. Sorry, mate. We're going to have a
Uh-oh.
little look. He was quite close to Mike Dam. This is into the bus stop chicane, and he misses it. So that's
Oof.
why, because he will have taken a slowdown penalty as well.
Yeah, and the slowdown penalties here at Daytona are brutal, to say the least, as you have to, especially as you're getting up into the gears shortly after the bus stop. One good way of trying to limit the damage instead of having to like get off the throttle is upshifting all the way up to top gear to make the rev limiters take a little longer to get up to top speed. But that's like the best way to be able to not lose too much time. But usually, if you have to get a slowdown through there, it's killer.
Sorry, Tyler. Just looking at it, Mike Dam. I think he was blinking a little bit there, and we've seen, and he's gonna not like us for bringing this up because we always have this conversation with him. It seems that his internet connection might actually be his Achilles heel, just like an unreliable car in reality, Tyler. That's one of the worst things that can actually happen to a driver, especially in an endurance race.
Yeah, that's never a good sign when that happens.
He was just blinking in and out for just a couple of seconds, and again, that's just, it might slightly unsettle him a little bit as Torman gets very close to Russell Ruddock into the bus stop. But is he doing exactly the same as what we think that Stephen Thomas is doing? Is he sitting there for fuel saving purposes? I guess we'll only find out when it comes to the pit stops, and that is a real possibility that is exactly what Torman's doing.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at the lap times, I mean, especially, I wonder if Russ might be on a different fuel map too. I mean, granted, he's running, as he crosses the start-finish line there, a minute and 43-second lap time. It'll be interesting to see what kind of fuel he's running, because if he's able to save a little bit more fuel than the top two runners along with Chris Dorman, that'd be interesting as well.
It's just all about maximising these stints and making sure that you're efficient. And because, like I say, these races are quite a lot longer than your typical Ricmotech Sports Car Series race, which is usually an hour. So this is 2 hours and 15 minutes. So yeah, there's also a bit of an element as well of not actually burning out in these 2.25 hours as well. Concentrating yourself as a driver.
Yeah, and especially with an endurance race like this, it's a very big mental game as well, on trying to make sure that you're focused enough to where you can keep your consistency up, because if you start losing focus on the task at hand, it can really end up spelling disaster for you in the long run.
Definitely. And we always... Oh, wait a minute. Mike Dam's disappeared. Mike Dam has gone.
Oh no. I'm keeping an eye.
Has his chance of winning the race gone as well?
Oh no, I'm looking at his quality. It's dropped to 23.
Yeah, we don't have it. We don't have it on the screen, sadly, but what happened? But I assume it's just a disconnection for Mike Dam. Terrible for him.
Yeah, I'm looking at the quality, and it's really, really dropping, and this is not a good sign.
Well, that as well, once it starts dropping like that, it's very difficult to recover, as I know myself through various issues I've had this week with these things too. But
and he did throughput. He did drop connection.
Ah man, throughput error then for Mike Dam has cost him the race here. It looks like now he should be able to get back in the session, but he's going to be a long way behind. Something that even a couple of hours racing can't fix. If you had, say, a 24-hour race as we had at this very circuit just the other day, Tyler, he might be able to recover from a disconnection, but 2 hours, it's not, every second he's out of this session is another second that he won't be able to catch up.
Exactly, and plus as well, he also has to factor in the tow time as well because of
Oh,
the
when he actually gets back in,
disconnection.
yeah.
Yeah, because of the disconnection, the car is immediately towed, so that's about another 3 minutes there he loses.
Oh man, just bad luck. Pasquale Iannucci has got into the Crypto G orange car, but it's going to be a long, it's going to be a long fight back for Pat. And that leaves Travis Schwenke well and truly clear at the front, though. 13.4 seconds. He leads the way over Russell Ruddock.
Well, actually, just thinking about this too, this kind of throws the whole entire strategy for Excite Energy as well. They were trying to stay in the draft with Mike Dam. With Mike Dam now dropping out, they have no draft help for fuel.
That is true,
So
but they don't need it now.
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
I do know what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's more of a big win for them. I think the fact that he's not there, as opposed to. I do see what you get. They've lost something small of an advantage, and they've gained a big one.
Yeah. At the same time, I mean, they just now got to try to play it smart because, I mean, now especially with honestly looking at this now, I would almost want to say that Chris Thorman and the coaxial racing team, they might be in the cat's bird seat right now because they're going to have the best opportunity to save fuel over the rest of the teams, especially on Excite Racing and Flying Tortoise because they're getting all of the draft from Flying Tortoise and they could really save some fuel.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think that's definitely. I think that's definitely
opportunity to
definitely
save fuel over the rest of
really.
the teams, especially on Excite Racing and Flying Tortoise because they're getting all of the draft
I
from
just feel bad
Flying Tortoise and they could really save.
I really do feel bad for Mike Dam. That was just really unfortunate there for having that happen.
It's happened to him many times over the years in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, and yeah, it does tend. And I will say it's happened to him at this very track before as well. A couple of seasons ago, the first meeting of the season, I think this happened to him. So he's no stranger to it. It doesn't make it any less hurtful when you've practiced and when you've raced the first part of the race as well as he has done. But yeah, I'm sure he'll be back strongly very, very soon. We're going to go to a quick break here on Apex Racing TV, and we're going to be back with more from the Ricmotech World Challenge the other side of the break.
Are you a fan of the Ricmotech World Challenge? Now is your chance to show off your favorite Sim Racing World Challenge by visiting our online store with clothing and apparel for women and men in all sizes, merchandise and gift items like coffee mugs, laptop skins, mouse pads, and many more items to display your passion for sports car sim racing. Visit us today at ExtremeMotorsports99.com and click on the online store button. Thank you for watching and supporting the Ricmotech World Challenge. Are you a fan of the Ricmotech World Challenge? Now is your chance to show off your favorite Sim Racing World Challenge by visiting our online store with clothing and apparel for women and men in all sizes, merchandise and gift items like coffee mugs, laptop skins, mouse pads, and many more items to display your passion for sports car sim racing. Visit us today at ExtremeMotorsports99.com and click on the online store button. Thank you for watching and supporting the Ricmotech World Challenge. Are you a fan of the Ricmotech World Challenge? Now is your chance to show off your favorite Sim Racing World Challenge by visiting our online store with clothing and apparel for women and men in all sizes, merchandise and gift items like coffee mugs, laptop skins, mouse pads, and many more items to display your passion for sports car sim racing. Visit us today at ExtremeMotorsports99.com and click on the online store button. Thank you for watching and supporting the Ricmotech World Challenge.
Welcome back to the Ricmotech World Challenge Series here on Apex Racing TV. Andrew Woodhouse and Tyler Vickery bringing you all the action from the Daytona International Speedway in Florida. Tyler, we are 40 minutes into this race. You see the temperatures on the screen, 19 degrees, fairly cool out there. And drivers, it's been fairly plain sailing for most of them, shall we say, so far.
Yeah, it was fairly simple for a few, other than Cryptology Orange Team, which I still feel bad for them. That was really unfortunate luck there, as that was our only right now, one of our only biggest catastrophes right now, as Mike Dam, or actually, which team is Mike Dam on again? I'm hoping I'm on the right one.
Right.
It was Cryptology. Yeah, where Mike Dam unfortunately had some connection issues and dropped out of the session while leading the GTLM class, which that's really tough for any team to have happen.
Yeah, it's happened to, like I say, it's happened to him before. Doesn't make it any less painful for him. They are one lap down at the minute with Pasquale Iannucci, so it's not an absolute disaster in terms of the 2.25 hours, but it just means a hell of a lot of ground to make up. And one thing that you probably missed, to be fair, Tyler, in the opening part of the race was just how close everybody really was in qualifying, which is going to make Pat Iannucci's job even harder, really.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if the times are very close, it's going to be real tough. I mean, the only way anything will happen is if they like a safety car comes out or something, because that's probably going to be the only way that Pat Iannucci, Pascal Iannucci, and the Cryptology Orange Team can have any shot at getting their lap back or trying to get some kind of advantage to catch back up.
Yeah, exactly that. Not enough time, really, to do it on pure pace. Anyway, to be honest, I think Schwenke equal pace really to them. I don't think there's any sort of real advantage. Jim List we're seeing here on the screen, just ahead of Dave Fitzgerald, who, the first victim of the GTDs, really. And it is the case here, Tyler, that the fastest GTLM cars are quicker, just in the race trim than the GTDs, but the slower GTLM cars, the GTDs seem to have the advantage.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting, especially how some of these cars, cars are, and especially specifically of how they've got them set up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the GTD cars, see if how quickly they do catch up to the others, if possible, depending on how they run.
Yeah, I mean, the pit stops are going to be a factor as well in terms of, can these guys make any more ground up? You know, I don't know exactly how it's going to pan out. I think that's the beauty of this race. It's not going kind of the way that we maybe expected it to go. As Jim List enters the pit lane now then. And this is important. He was 9 seconds ahead of Eric Violet, Eric Violet's going through there. P4, I think it said in the Daytona 24 Hours for that team. D2D Motorsports Blue. List then, into his garage, hammers the brakes. Has he got it stopped in the right place? We've all overshot our pit box on iRacing, Tyler, and
Yep.
This is not what you want to do at this point.
Yep, and it looks like they're doing a driver change as well.
Bobby Childs getting in there.
Yep. So this will be his first laps of the
of the race, so this will be really interesting to see how he fares, and let alone see how quickly he's able to catch up to his teammate, depending on when they pit. As there goes Stephen Thomas for Driftline Racing as well.
Who didn't make the
Go.
driver change, obviously. So it's that's the difference between them. That pit stop time. We did have the pit stop time on there for Thomas, but yeah, because that's changed over to Childs, it hasn't registered the stop time. He's still waiting. He's still waiting. They
And
dropped
away
him,
he
and
goes.
he's away now. Always difficult, I think. So I always think it's one of the toughest things to do. Oh my god, I thought he was going a little bit quickly into that left-hander, but I was going to say it's one of the trickiest things for me in a race to just come out cold in the middle of a race when really you haven't had any running since the practice session before the race.
Yeah, and especially with how the pit road is here for Daytona as well, and cold tires kind of makes it a little bit even more sketchier, especially when you have to make sure not to lock up the tires and make a mistake. As here comes Eric Violet now coming into the pits for his pit stop now.
Is he going to make a driver change, I wonder? Let's see then.
This would be interesting.
He's in that outside lane. Is he going to swing into his box quite late? Yes, he does. Stops quite nicely on his marks.
I don't see a driver change from what it's looking like. Do you?
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, he does.
Chad Parker then getting into that one, and again, it's always a fun comparison to see exactly how these guys are going to go, and I always quite like it when a new driver gets into the car. It really does give you an idea of who's performing and who isn't. And Stephen Thomas, well, he's definitely performing, isn't he? He currently leads the class in GTD. 1 minute and 40 off of the lead. He's made a stop. Only Chris Torman has made a stop so far in the GTLMs, but Russell Ruddock is in the pits in the Flying Tortoise Ferrari and locking up Jersey struggles to get down to that commitment line.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm actually kind of curious now. For the lap times, or actually not lap times, for the driver swaps, is there a certain required time limit for each driver to run? Because I have a feeling I have an idea of what
It's usually 60
Stephen Thomas is.
I mean, it's usually 60 or 70%, isn't it? Really, realistically.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking, with it being a 2 hour and 15-minute race, I wonder if the next time that the next time we see Stephen Thomas come into the pits, I wonder if he'll do the driver swap, and then that driver swap will be the one and only stop for driver swap for that team for Driftline Racing.
It could well be. It could well be the efficient way to do it. But again, we'll have to see, because I feel it sounds like a really obvious thing. I feel like the team that spends the least time in the pits is always going to have the best chance of winning. Obviously, that's a really, really obvious statement to make. But in a race like this, it's important. We see Kevin Ford there in the Ricmotech Motorsports white car, and Jeff Jacobs getting released almost identical times. But the Ford getting away much better than the Ferrari. I remember when we were in the Le Mans 24 Hours trying to get that Ferrari going. Very, very difficult. You had to kind of mash the clutch and get it running quickly again.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've noticed with the GTLM cars is, that's the GTLM cars.
That's the driving change, and that's Robert Hartley, and we know how good he is.
Yes, so that'll be a runaway race. I'm trying to remember, the GT3 cars are GT3, and then the GTE cars are the GTLM, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm definitely wanting to say the GTLM class with, especially with these cars, the Porsche and the Ford can get out really quick. As here comes David Fitzgerald in the pits. I definitely want to say how the way to have that gearing set for, or however it's set for the like the FIA regulations and everything. It's really odd to see how slow the Ferrari gets out of its pit box all the time. And I'm hoping that I'll actually have to do some research on it, see if we can find out something about it, because it just seems very interesting that out of all the cars to go into the pit box and then out, the Ferrari is one of the slowest getting out of its box.
Unless, like I say, you use the clutch to really get it
Yeah.
get it going, and that's what I remember I had to do that in 2017 at the Le Mans 24 hours to just get the thing going. And once you know what you're doing with it, it does get off the line quickly, but you really have to, you have to. If you don't know that technique at all, then that's not going to help you.
Yeah, and that's like with a good example for me. I run the GT3 version on the official series all the time. I run the Ferrari GT3, and it's the same thing. But what I normally have done, since I don't have a clutch pedal for my setup, I get almost probably 80% on the throttle to where the rev lines are, where it's almost rev lining, and then when the jacks drop, then I can be able to get a better run and be able to get out of the pit box. But if you're not, but it almost seems like if you're not on the gas pedal at all for that Ferrari, it's going to take you about a good 5-6 seconds to get up to pit speed, and that's a lot of time lost.
I think what I might have even done, I might have even put a button instead of the clutch, because I think you just needed a quick jab of it to get it going. So I think I might have just mapped like the space bar or something, or just to literally change gear, bang, space bar, gone. And I think that was kind of it. But it's a tough one. It is a very tough one, and one that a lot of new drivers to the car especially are not going to know. Jeff Jacobs must have lost 2 seconds to Kevin Ford getting out of the pits. That's how long it seemed to take with that bloody thing getting off the line anyway.
Yeah, well, here's the weird thing. When I look at the live timing, the Kevin Ford had a longer pit stop compared to Kevin C. Ford had a longer pit stop compared to Jeff Jacobs. But when you look at the pit lane time, like from when you enter pit lane to when you exit, Kevin Ford had a minute and 22.8 from entering pit lane to exiting pit lane, while Jeff Jacobs had a minute and 23.8 from pit in to pit out. So that's a full second right there that Jeff Jacobs lost, and that.
And I think from when they actually got dropped, I think that Ford was maybe a second or two ahead of Jacobs when they actually dropped.
Oof.
But then they got out of the pits 3 or 4 seconds clear as Michael Monaghan has a bit of a brown trouser moment coming out of the infield section.
Yeah, I saw that. That was scary. My goodness.
That is not one you want, not at that speed anyway. And here we go.
Yeah.
Especially
at that corner.
Oh, I tell you what. Looks like he's fighting the car a little bit. Doesn't quite look like the Welligan Racing Porsche. He's completely under him. But going well in 5th place is Monaghan.
Yeah, definitely. There's a few times there. It looked like looks like the tires have been fighting with him already.
The thing is, like I mentioned earlier on, though, you do not want to get in a situation where you start heating up, overly heating those rear tires, because that will hurt you.
Yeah, definitely. Quick question: has the 69 pitted at all? Because when I'm looking at live timing, it looks like he has not pitted once.
I saw him come in. Yeah.
Okay.
It is on there. No, he has pitted. He came in on lap 8 though. That might be why you missed it. I would think it was close to when you joined.
More than likely. Yeah, that was probably when I missed out like the first 15 minutes of the race or 20 minutes of the race, I want to say.
So he has been in. I think it was just for fuel. It was only 28-second stop that he made.
Okay.
Originally, anyway. Sorry, 29.1. Sorry, it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going on nicely. He's kind of on his own. But I think everyone is at the minute. Actually, don't think anyone's really in touching distance. The best battle that we've got, if we can call it one, is Kevin Ford, Jeff Jacobs, Pasquale Iannucci. Now, they are only about 5 seconds apart. You can see them, just a tiny little blobs on the screen, just in the distance. You see the yellow car of Jeff Jacobs, and then you can see the red car, the orange car, sorry, of Iannucci right in the distance. And that's the car, of course, Tyler, that at one bit was leading the race. This one here.
Oh, that's right.
The one that we're going on board with.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing, too. Looking at the pace for compared to Kevin Ford, Jeff Jacobs, and Pascal Iannucci, Pascal Iannucci's running a lot quicker than Jeff Jacobs. But yet, Jeff Jacobs is running a lot quicker than Kevin Ford. So
you know what that means, don't you? We might get a dust-up out there soon.
Yeah, we might have an interesting battle. Either two things could happen: a really good battle, or all three teams working together, trying to get a little bit quicker lap times to catch up to Robert Hartley or Chris Dorman. Or
it's not the worst idea for, say, if you're, say, Kevin Ford at the moment, and you're not running massively quick lap times. He's a very fast driver, is Kevin Ford, in the Ford Mustang normally, but of course most of these drivers quite new to these cars, so Ford seems to be just getting to grips with it. But yeah, it's not the worst idea for him. If Jacobs goes through, just hang on to the back of him for a few laps and try to gain a second or two, just sat in his slipstream, because, you know, why not? Same thing for Jacobs with Iannucci. I mean, I think it's too early to be fighting these places hard.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was me, I would battle for a couple of corners, and then if it's not going to happen, I would just leave it. There's no sense for fighting for, you know, say 4, 5, 6 laps, because you're just going to slow yourself down massively.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, and just looking at the gap, that time is really closing in on for Kevin Ford, as both Iannucci and Jacobs are closing in, as Iannucci's only about 2 seconds behind Jacobs, and Jacobs is 2 seconds behind Ford now, so that gap's really closing up.
That's it. I'm just going to show you that here actually on the screen. It was 4.1 seconds. You can see that Jacobs has just taken steady bits of time out of Kevin Ford. And if we look also at the gap between between Jacobs and Iannucci, that's come down from 7 seconds to just 1.3. It's just 5 laps of this track.
Yeah, and Iannucci is right now the quickest driver on track after that last passing the start-finish line. Right now, Iannucci's got the quickest time of 1:42.6. Next driver close to him is Robert Hartley with the 1:42.7, and then Michael Ruddock. Only 3 cars out of the GTLM field that are in the 142s. Everyone else is in the 143s or 144s. So that makes a big difference there for Pascal Iannucci as well, on trying to come back to try to take the lead if possible.
One thing I see with Hartley a lot when I've watched him, very fast driver of course, but it's just the consistency of results that he seems to get that really does set him apart from a lot of the other drivers around. Now, I do think that he has made a few mistakes in the past, and he'll know that. But I think that's what comes of being, you know, he's the highest rated I-rated driver in the field by quite some distance. 9,672. Tyler, for the average person, as through he goes, right? through goes Iannucci on Jacob. For the average person who can't even contemplate getting to 9,000 I rating, I can't even contemplate getting to 3,000, and yet he's 9,600. Just how good do you have to be? Much better than us, I think. To be honest.
Yeah, and especially when I'm still fighting to try to get to 2,000 I rating myself, and yeah, just seeing that, it almost seems as if any series Robert Hartley gets in, it seems like he'll just win out left and right, and just blow away the competition, especially with that big of an I rating.
As we know, though, it's not always as easy as that, is it? And the I rating, you know, for a lot of drivers as well. And this is where I rating is good and I rating is bad, because I rating doesn't always tell you who the best driver is, but it does tell you who generally gets the best results. And obviously, again, this is Captain Obvious a little bit again, but racing is a results business. And esports is now, and sim racing esports is now,
And
as we're seeing, becoming
way.
a results business. Not necessarily who the fastest driver is, as here comes definitely one of the fastest drivers in this meeting here, Pasquale Iannucci, going to the high side here of Kevin Ford. In the Ford, of course, the only Ford on the circuit. Well, you know, he was going to drive one, if anybody. Let's be honest. Over the line he comes, and Iannucci gets that one done, keeps the position. And this is the point that we were making before, is Kevin just now needs to try.
Jeff Jacobs went a little wide there. He's losing a little bit of time.
I tell you what, he got a good exit out of there, though, so it hasn't really hurt him too badly. But yeah, Kevin just needs to try now and stay in that draft of Iannucci just for a couple of laps. Maybe gain himself a second and a half, something like that.
Yeah, and if
and he's driving a nice lap
train,
behind him, actually.
Yeah, and if this 3-car train if Kevin and Jeff can keep up with Pascal Iannucci, they might have an opportunity to catch up to Michael Mohagan. I hope I said that right, because that's the next car in front of them. So definitely gonna be interesting as the laps wind by.
Yeah, he's only 4 seconds ahead of Michael Monaghan, so not too bad in terms of the next obstacle for Iannucci. And yeah, Ford's pretty much lost the draft already, so very strong lap by Iannucci as he's got through there, not wanting any sort of hangers on really to disrupt his progress back through the field, as he will be hoping to do. 46 seconds off the lead, which actually,
it has dropped.
I tell you
that
what,
gap
in
is
the
dropping.
grand scheme of things, though, mate, that is, considering they
It's
were
still
disconnected,
possible.
it's not so bad at all, really.
Yeah, and especially when I thought it was going to be a lot longer, but Iannucci, if he can keep running lap times like that, I wouldn't be surprised if they catch up to Robert Hartley and Chris Thorman, because when we've had the last time when we had an opportunity to keep an eye on their gap, the last time I looked towards Robert Hartley and Chris Thorman, Iannucci and the Cryptology Orange team was almost a minute behind. And right now, with an hour and 2 minutes into this race, that gap is down to 46 seconds, and it's still dropping.
Well, you can see the gap on here, just how Rob Hartley's closed in on Chris Thorman. 4.6 seconds it was, and now down to, well, as you can see, not that at all. 0.3 of a second.
Hartley's on the move. Hartley's going to try to get around Thorman pretty soon. Try to see if he can even pull a gap. But even then, as right now looking at the gap, it's just Iannucci's still, the gap is still dropping even for Hartley too.
Now, if you are Rob Hartley, I was just going to quickly say that, you know, this might, you want to get by him quickly. You do not want to rush it, because if you do, you make a mess of it, then, you know, that does let in. You know, Mike Ruddock, it lets in Iannucci as well. What's happened to Monaghan? He's in the pits.
He's in the pits, yep.
He's in the pits, is Mike Monaghan.
And that's interesting. And now he's not in the pits anymore.
No, is he not?
It said he went pit side, and
No,
all
he
of a sudden it disappeared. Okay.
No, he is still there.
My live timing scared me there for a second.
Oh, he's handing over to David Alessi then.
So a big driver change there.
And one driver change that we didn't mention, actually, the PMF Motorsports car, Forest Landy, has taken over that one from, I believe that was David Fitzgerald that was in that one. So,
Yeah.
car 91.
Well, that brings Cryptology Orange back up to the top 5. And
Yep.
Pascal Iannucci, he is still firing off quick lap times, as it looks like Robert Hartley did get around Chris Thorman now.
I'd be interested to see just how much fuel is on board that Cryptology Orange Racing 83 machine, because, of course, when Dam was disconnected, like you say, they got the tow, he ended up back in the pits, but they had to take an enforced pit stop. But did he go out basically as quickly as he could? Did he fill the car up? We didn't really see him go back out there, so we don't know the status of the fuel and things really for him.
Yeah, exactly. And
Judging by these lap times, I don't reckon he's got that much on board, because, with all due respect to Pat, he's a very, very good driver. I don't think he's 0.8 of a second quicker than Hartley, or 1.5 seconds quicker than Torman on a normal lap. So Hartley has taken the lead then, and of course we've missed it, because that's how it happened on FX Racing TV. Here we go, then here is the move. I think it's going to be a traditional move here at Daytona. It is the one going into the tri-oval. He's round the outside, is Hartley. So is he going to outbrake him, or does he just blend out of the throttle and let him have it? The answer is he lets him have it. So Rob Hartley into the lead.
Yep, and Hartley's already pulled an 8/10 of a second gap on Chris Norman already, so definitely pulling away.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing a good job out there so far. Certainly is.
Just listening in to that engine, just really smooth driving by Robert Hartley.
Tell you what, it's a terrific engine in that.
Yeah,
Really,
definitely.
always sounds really good. I think that's one of, as much as it's a superficial reason, I think that's why the Porsche has proven to be so popular in both its GT3, in its Carrera Cup format, and in this GTE version as well.
Absolutely.
It's just exciting
Especially
to drive, isn't it?
Yeah, especially just hearing that engine, and even in the real life, the Porsches and Porsche engines are more like the decibel sounds are just has a lot higher engine sound and louder engine sound compared to the other cars. You could easily hear that car miles away compared to the others, and it's almost like you can specifically hear that certain engine. And it's like if you hear that engine, it's like, oh yeah, that's a Porsche car right there.
So when we went to, we were lucky enough to go to the World Endurance Championship race in Silverstone in 2014 was the first year that we went, and it was when the GT cars were still normally aspirated, and the Ferrari was the loudest thing. I think one of the loudest things I've ever heard. One of the loudest noises I've ever heard coming out of a car in my life, because it was just an absolute screech, but in a good way. And then we went back in 2016 and 2017, and it was much more. It's that turbo sound. It's more of a whooshing noise. And don't get me wrong, they're still impressive machines. And for someone whose hearing gets quite badly affected by the really, really loud stuff, right? I'm quite grateful for it. But there is part of me that misses it, especially, say, the Aston Martin when that used to come past, and it was just that really low sort of growling noise, and I do miss it. And I think that's why I like the Porsche, because it, even though it's a modern car, it still sounds a bit old school, a little bit dangerous, and it's in a good way, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm actually kind of excited because I'll be able to get to hear those cars in March with the little super weekend that's going on down here in Sebring in March. I can't wait for that.
Oh, I bet that'll be good. That is in Florida, of course, and just like we are here tonight. And we were saying, actually, the iRacing gods have smiled upon us and given us a really, really clear day here as well.
Which is
So,
very shocking, especially compared to real life. Right now,
is it not very
real
good
life. Oh, it's freezing right now.
It doesn't happen very often in Florida, I bet that doesn't.
No, but honestly, at the same time, with it being freezing temperatures, I mean, right now we kind of had a cold weather front. As right now, a lot of the United States right now is getting hit with some really really bad cold weather. So a lot of the temperatures around the U.S. have really dropped a lot. So
I bet you were wishing for that 19 degrees Celsius like it is out there here on the track. I bet you'd be loving that if that was the case at this point.
Yeah, especially when it's got on here with Fahrenheit 84 degrees track temp, clear 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Which, if I wish there was a way I could change this real quick to metric, and I don't know how to do that because I want to make a quick comparison of how the weather is realistic out here. I might right now, realistic wise, I'll have to do some quick research. So you have to give me a second on that one.
I'll tell you what, it's been cold here as well in the north of England. But some smart asses will probably tell me that that's always the case, but it isn't. We had a beautiful summer, but I think we've had a little bit like I don't think anybody's really had the extreme weather that say New York's had recently, which I've heard it's been very very cold. It's been about minus 15 or something. So if any of the drivers here are from the East Coast area, they'll be knowing exactly what I'm talking about. And you know, it's always a tough task. I always think it's quite amazing, just in general, that we can go from even in Britain, you know, we can go from 35 degrees Celsius, you know, 100 Fahrenheit nearly days, to going to, you know, freezing and -5, -10 in the winter, and yet everything just about seems to be able to cope with it. It's quite impressive in a way.
Absolutely. And I'm just letting you know this now, actually. I was able to get, I looked up right now for the weather forecast for the real life 24-hour Daytona. Because of this little cold spell we've had, right now they're already predicting the start of the race right now. The highest temperature it'll get up to is 63 degrees Fahrenheit. Compared when you translate,
is that about what we've got that here? Is it then
which
about
is
16?
which 17 degrees Celsius. And
That's
that's on a partly cloudy day, as we got Jeff Jacobs having a nice little fight here with Kevin Ford, as we're seeing.
Yeah, having a look is Jacobs into turn 1.
And yeah, and then the other thing too is, and that's just partly cloudy, and we have no chance of rain Saturday. However, forecasts are predicting during the middle of the night to near the end of the race, scattered showers. The highest is going to be 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be about 18 degrees Celsius.
It doesn't rain often in that race, does it? From memory, anyway. But...
Yes. Usually Daytona is well known of getting rain very sporadically and almost on a daily basis. But with the temperature-wise, because of... I just saw that as well. Jacobs had a little bit of a wiggle there, it looked like, I want to say. But
he's chasing down Kevin Ford, though, and he seems to be getting within... You know, he's getting within those 4/10 or so, and then sort of going, you know, not really managing to make any more inroads. Question on the stream was the pit stop strategy. We think 2 stops should be all for these guys. For some people, it might be touch and go, but I think if they're sensible about it, they should be able to make it in just 2 visits to the pits.
Yeah, I want to say two pit stops. And then 3 for in case you miscalculate.
Here he comes, Jacobs. Then he's got a good run. He's got a very good run here.
He's lifted
Tyler,
off
is he
a
going to go
little
for the
though.
inside? No.
No. It looks like he's going to just play fuel strategy now, from what it's looking like, because he lifted off even before he caught up to Kevin Ford.
Now I know everyone said this one, but every time I look at the back of the Ford, I can still only see the Angry Birds pig. And like I can't unsee that, I'm afraid now. I do like the car though. The car's very good. Like I said, out of these I've only really driven the Ferrari in any anger, and
yeah,
it was a beautiful car to drive. We had a lot of fun with it at Le Mans. We unfortunately couldn't quite get in to do that race this year, but hopefully next time we'll be able to tackle it again. And Jacobs gets a good run this time off of the infield, and I reckon this is going to be a chance, Tyler, because he's a bit closer than he was on the previous lap.
He is, but at the same time, I think he's playing strategy-wise. I think he's trying to just save some fuel, because if he lifts off before he gets to the 2 marker, yeah, he lifted off a little bit there. I think he's playing cautious. If he lifts off again, getting closer to the start-finish line, I wouldn't be surprised if he's fuel saving, if he lifts off early.
I think he's close enough to make this one work, I think, though, if he wants. Just whether he wants to make this move or not, really.
Yeah, he's got the opportunity. We'll see.
Well, it might be worth it.
Well, he's looking.
I always think it's worth trying it. Here he comes.
Yep.
Round the outside he
goes.
goes.
He should be able to clear him.
How late is Kevin Ford going to be on the brakes, though?
Oh,
this is very late. Here we go, then.
Yep.
Ford on the inside. Keeps it well, but Jacobs knows now what he has to do. He knows the task ahead of him. Might be able to surprise him into one of these hairpins. We've seen that happen quite a lot. Iannucci's in the pits. That doesn't surprise me, given the fact that, like I said, they had to pit quite early on.
Yeah, definitely. And just to finish up real quickly on that real life 24-hour Daytona one for the real life one, I think this will be the first time in a while that the temperatures have been this low. I want to say in years past it's been almost 20 degrees Celsius or even higher, probably even higher than that in the past few years. So this year's race will definitely be interesting, as it's definitely going to be colder compared to recent years. So we might see some very quick times in the real life race. So get ready for that. That'll be fun.
I have to confess, I don't think I've ever watched the race in detail. So I think, I've heard a lot about it this year, and it seems to be the most coverage I think it's ever got in Europe, especially. It's probably because the likes of Fernando Alonso is doing it and people like that. But I think it's going to be a good race. I look forward to watching a little bit of that, and we'll get some of the great strategy that's involved. I think it's always fun to see in the 24-hour races. Here comes Jacobs again. Then
he lifts off,
another really good run, but this time, he decides he's not going to go
for
it.
I think he's playing safe, unless he knows he can make a pass on either one of the straightaways. He's going to stay behind and try to save as much fuel, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair, isn't it? I do. Got the gyro cam going here, Tyler, and I think we're going to see. This is going to be quite fun when we go onto the banking. Just for the viewers at home, if you're not used to oval racing, or if you're not used to any rovals as such, you won't really appreciate just how steep this track can be. And when we go through this left-hander here and onto the banking, you will see this gyro cam really come into its own now. Look at that. Look at that.
And
I mean, to be fair, Tally, you could barely walk up there. If you tried to walk up there, you would struggle.
Yeah, and I have to admit, when I was at Daytona last year in real life for the ARCA race last year, when just parking in the infield, because I had a rental car at the time when I was driving there, when I parked in the infield, we're near over by the inner horseshoe. I'm just looking towards turn 3 and 4, and just I felt like let's just say I felt like I had to look up, because it was just that steep of a banking. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I bet it's a bit of a sight to behold in reality. Here comes Jacobs, and I think this time he should get the clearance on Ford.
Nope.
Is he going to outbrake him? Is he going to go around the outside? He's not.
Broke way early.
He might cut back here. He's very close to him. He might have a go. Might well have a go into the tight hairpin here. Turn 4, I believe. No, he's not going to do that. Which is definitely fair enough. I think what his mentality seems to be is that if he does get through, then great. If he doesn't, then it doesn't really matter, because I think they know that really this is probably as high as they're going to get in this race, because 17 seconds to Stephen Thomas, there's 27 seconds to Michael Ruddock, and it's 52 seconds to Chris Torman, and over a minute to Rob Hartley. So these guys aren't really going to get any higher, so this is the battle. So for Jacobs, he's happy to just sit there and wait.
Yeah, and especially when looking at it class-wise, Jeff Jacobs and Kevin Ford are 28 seconds to Michael Ruddock. They are closing in on Michael Ruddock, as he's probably getting near to where he should be probably coming into the pits pretty soon. But right now, with how they both run, it's pretty much going to be a battle for 4th and 5th for Jeff Jacobs and Kevin Ford, unless they make a big mistake.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they do not want to do, of course, in this. And we talk about this a lot here on the channel, and I've not covered an endurance race for quite some time, but again, it's you do not want lots of little mistakes to add up to a large loss of time over the course of a race, because it's already difficult enough to do 2.25 hours of Daytona, whether you're on your own or you're with a partner. Don't want to make these little errors. Fortunately, I'm not going to say it's an easy track, Tyler, but I do think, put it this way, there are harder tracks to race an endurance race on.
Yes, I can definitely agree with that.
It's definitely not an easy track. I'm not saying that, but I definitely am saying that it's a more straightforward track than a lot of the others, I think. Like, say, for instance, Suzuka, or Le Mans, or Sebring. Having to race Sebring for 24 hours would actually be a nightmare to me. I would probably make so many mistakes,
Right.
Even Spa. I mean, Spa's a lot bigger and more open and flatter than Sebring, but the concentration needed at somewhere like that, to me, is huge. Whereas, really, the only corners that actually scare me around this track, to be honest, the only corner that scares me on this track at all is probably turn 1.
Yeah, and then turn 1 is just a very difficult turn as it is. I mean, you're going almost 180 miles per hour, probably 200 kilometers an hour, and trying to slow down enough to where you can be able to make that corner. It can be very drastic and can be very daring at the same time.
We're about to see it. Oh, is he going to give him the inside this time?
He lifted off there, just
lifting and coasting in, though, isn't he? And
gaining
that fuel usage. He didn't get a great apex there, though, and so he does lose a little bit of the toe. Ford happy to stay in P5. The other driver change that we didn't mention is Michael Key. He's got into the Frito Sport Racing Team car, which was under the piloting of Edgar Sancinelli, but I think something went on there. So I think Sancinelli had some issues. Didn't quite see it on the screen, but Key, as a result, is 4 laps down, I think, in the end. Tyler Schiffler is also still going in the race, but
wow, yeah, still have a lot of damage.
that'll be why for him. I wonder if
it was definitely really early on in the race, I want to say.
I wonder if it's this here for Schiffler early on. Was he a victim of the grass? Oh! Well, he spun off there. But then there was definitely a... I wonder where he picked up the damage. I can't see where he picked up the damage. But that was certainly the start of it for him, just on lap 1. Hasn't really got any better. Very experienced driver, very fast driver. He does not have the car underneath him to do a job for him today. He's going round about 9 seconds off the pace at the moment, Tyler. And, well, from one Tyler to another, that's a bit sad to see, isn't it, really?
Yeah, well, I mean, especially when, depending on where the damage is at, I mean, that's a lot of front end damage, which just adds a lot of downforce that he really doesn't need. So he's losing a lot of time just in the oval part, just on the long oval straights, and that's where it really hurts him with that Mercedes.
And downforce is not a commodity that is really desired around here, shall we say.
Yeah.
Hartley, though, he's got everything he desires really at the moment. 13.5 seconds clear of Chris Torman. I will say Chris Torman's done a decent job of just staying somewhere within his range, so as Hartley, the American, cannot settle down fully. But 13 seconds to even an endurance race is quite a large gap. Torman in the Ferrari, Coaxial Racing, doing a good job. Then it's Michael Ruddock in 3rd place for Flying Tortoise Motorsports. Then the first of the GTD cars, that is Stephen Thomas for Driftline Racing. He has a 38-second lead in that category. We think he might have a driver change to make, but of course, as Adam Mather was pointing out earlier on, there are some drivers out here that are running solo for quite a smaller percentage of the points.
Yeah, so I mean, but it'll be interesting though if Thomas does have a driver change. That'd definitely be a big strategy call for Thomas, staying out for half of the race. Which, I mean, at this point right now, with depending on how much fuel is left in that car, we should be seeing him come into the pits at any moment, as we have less than an hour to go. So.
Yep.
I mean, unless he is riding solo, which, I mean, to me right now, it seems like he's riding solo, because I would think he would want to do a driver change next time he comes into the pits. So, if he's still in the car, then we can definitely say that he's solo running this one.
You can see the gap between he and Bobby Childs, and yeah, you can just see how it's just steadily grown. There was one lap with quite a big gain on it, but the rest, he's just chipping away, isn't he? 1/10 here, 2/10 there.
Yeah, it's like slowly but surely. As I mean, right now, looking at the times, he is still gaining a little bit on Bobby Childs, but he is losing a little bit of ground on Chad Parker. Parker's closing in a little bit, but it's still almost like a full 40 seconds that he's got on Bobby Childs and Chad Parker. So a lot of things can still happen. So
well, Chad Parker actually getting about to be lapped by Hartley here.
Yep, as there
gives
goes
him the top
Hartley
line. That
now.
makes sense, because you don't really lose out very much when you just go up to that high side. You know, you can just blend back in a bit like in a cycling, track cycling race where one guy goes up to the top and comes back down again and just sort of slots in to the team.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Chad Parker did. I think he might have liked to maybe get a little bit closer, get a little bit more slipstream off of Hartley than he actually did, because of course every little helps in this in this kind of race. Pasquale Iannucci is on the move still. 1:42.5 is the second fastest time out there on the track in the previous lap, as Chad Parker actually comes into the pits. So that might be why he wasn't too bothered about getting right in the slipstream. Iannucci is just behind
Chris Thorman.
Chris Thorman, yeah. So this is unlapping himself, isn't it? From Thorman, yeah.
Thorman, and then he has Hartley to still catch up, but Hartley's still running quick lap times.
He won't catch him. He won't catch Hartley, in my opinion. He is slightly quicker, but I mean, if he catches Hartley to unlap himself, it's going to be at the very, very end of the proceedings here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. It pretty much the race, trying to win the race for Cryptology Awards gone after what happened to Mike Beam, unfortunately, and especially when they were a big contender at the early portions of the race. So, Stephen Thomas is in the pits now as well.
Eric Violet is in as well. The D2D Motorsports blue car. No driver change for him. He's just waiting on the tyres. And he's going to be out
There's
again.
Thomas right in front of him.
I think the tyres actually,
Oh,
Tyler.
driver change.
It's Nathan Thomas coming in, yeah, for Driftline Racing. Where's Bobby Childs? Here he is. Childs, is he pitting as well? He is.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Hammering on the brakes. Oh, there's no chance he's going to make that. He's not made that, surely.
No, there ain't no way.
He's really overshot that, and that'll be a penalty.
Gotta be.
I mean, I'm certain he didn't get on the limiter until way after the commitment line.
Yeah, but here's the thing now.
And probably for Forest Landy, just have a quick look at, just hold that thought, Tyler, as we look at this for Landy, who is in 5th place. Is this a problem in turn 1?
Whoa.
Oh, locks the rears up.
That's rare to see happen.
Oh, and in a little nudge of the wall.
Little bit.
That's
little
the car
straight.
that was around in the early going, under the stewardship of Dave Fitzgerald. So that car's been around twice. Little nudge of the wall, no damage. But you were saying, sorry mate, I just noticed that on there.
Well, I was saying too, with how the lap time, how the changes for Nathan Thomas and Jim Liss. Nathan Thomas is out on track. Jim Liss is just now pulling out. That strategy by Driftline Racing, I think, just locked in the win for him. I mean, but here's the thing: depending on how Nathan Thomas's lap times are, we'll have to keep an eye on Jim Liss's times, because they're going to be about 20. Looks like it's going to be about a 24-second gap difference right now, and that's a big advantage for Driftline Racing with Thomas staying out before doing the switch with Nathan. So this could be real big if Nathan's able to drive and run consistent laps, and maybe even quicker laps than Jim Liss, and might be able to pull out this win. So Jim Liss is going to have to really push this car if he wants an opportunity to try to take away the GTD win.
And of course, with them changing back, just more seconds really in the pits, wasn't it? Although their pit lane time was 15 seconds quicker than that of Nathan Thomas and Stephen Thomas. So yeah, I don't know even how that happened. Maybe they got away with the speeding. Maybe, I don't know. It's
gotta be. Well, but here's the crazy thing was he probably was able to slow up enough to where they didn't have to worry too much. But I think with how Stephen Thomas waited until about this point to make the driver change, and especially when he started out the race, I wonder if Stephen Thomas knew that almost want to say that might be his brother, and he knows that his brother's runs a little bit slower lap times compared to Jim Liss, and he figured he'd stay out a little bit longer, try to get a big enough gap, and then do the switch and try to hope that his brother can hang on to pull out the win.
So, and another way that you could look at it, as David Payton, the Canadian, gets into the coaxial racing car for the first time tonight, and away goes Mike Ruddock back out onto the track to regain that 3rd place. Kevin Ford's up into 2nd at the moment, who hasn't pitted for the 2nd time. But yeah, the other strategy that I think that personally I might do if I was involved in one of these. For some drivers, it's all about rhythm and it's all about feel. And for Stephen Thomas, it might be that the best course of action for him is to do those 2 stints in a row, because he might get that. He might while he's in the rhythm of the race. Sometimes why take a driver out of that rhythm if they're just going along nicely? Because that's the other school of thought, I think.
Yeah, I can almost agree with that. That just seems like it'd be a lot easier as well.
I know
For,
if I was going along and I was in the zone and going well, I probably wouldn't want to stop. I'd probably want to carry on, because if I stopped for 45 minutes and then went back out again,
you'd
might
lose
not.
your rhythm.
You've lost the rhythm. You need to learn again. Those first couple of laps, as we said, where the tyres are cold and the brakes aren't quite working that well, and you're maybe just getting used to the car, and maybe there's traffic flying past you, all those things. Stephen Thomas, if he came out of the pit saying there was loads of traffic or there was a problem, he'd know how to handle it, because he's used to the car, he's used to how it handles. Clint Vigus has gone back in to replace Tyler Schiffler. Like I say, they're having an awful time of it, really. I'll be honest, two of the probably the best. Not to really be dismissive to anybody else, but probably one of the top 2 or 3 driver pairings in the race, in my opinion. Vigus and Schiffler, and way down last position. Nobody, that's really, nobody would have expected that.
Yeah, definitely, especially how chaotic the start was for them. So, really unfortunate there. It looks like right now they've been sitting in their pick box for almost 9 minutes. So it looks like they're trying to do whatever they can repair-wise, because, I mean, there was still a lot of damage on that car, even before they came into the pits.
Yeah, certainly. There wasn't a lot they could really do with that. To put it mildly. David Payton's a quick driver. We'll see how he gets on in the coaxial racing for the first time, Payton. And again, a guy with a lot of experience in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series and the World Challenge. And he's a safe pair of hands, David Payton. And those hands at the moment gripping the wheel of the Ferrari and on the banking, taking us round, and then into the bus stop, which I'd say another intimidating corner, actually. When you get it right, it's a beautiful section. When you don't get it right, you feel like a bit of an idiot, to be honest. It looks quite easy, Tyler, but it's not, is it?
No, it's definitely not. It's very difficult.
Like, people will watch the race and go, "Oh, what do you mean? What are you talking about that for, you daft sod?" That's an easy. That's just you just flick it left, flick it right, then flick it left. But you have to spot the braking point, which actually is earlier than you think it is, and then you have to hit those yellow curves in such a way that you do not unsettle the car. Because if you do unsettle the car and you do, slightly miss one of those apexes, that is you stuffed all the way down to the start-finish line.
Yep, exactly.
You just lose so much momentum out there when you make a mistake at the bus stop. That's why it's such an important corner.
Yeah, and I'm definitely wanting to say this right now. Looking at the lap times, GTD might be interesting. Nathan Thomas's for second lap in, he's ran a 1:46.7.
Now, I have to say that damage wasn't there before, I don't think.
Ooh.
He's been off.
Right.
He was off on the last lap. Let's have a look. Just trying to find it. Yeah, that wing was fresh. Let's see.
Why do I have a feeling he locked up the tire a little bit? Oh, yep, he did.
Oh, he just loses it. Oh, a little hit of the wall.
Oh,
He
man.
almost kept it out of the wall, and that could turn the race on its head for the Thomas boys. And just as we were talking about the bus stop, Tyler, just as we were talking about how difficult it can be, Nathan Thomas has fallen victim to it.
Yep, and that right now that gap's down to 10 seconds, a little bit below 10 seconds. So, man, this is going to be a tall order for Nathan Thomas to be able to hang on to try to win this out now for GTD, as it's now a lot more intense now, as Nathan has to run clean and maybe even try to hang on to David Alessi if possible. I mean, he's only a second out, but I don't know. It's going to be a tall order for Nathan Thomas now.
Well, he didn't damage the car too badly. It is,
no,
as in, totaled the car or anything. He is struggling a little bit for straight line speed. It hasn't affected the car so much in terms of, you wouldn't think it would affect the handling too much. It's just going to be that straight line speed if there is a problem for him. So, and I think looking at it, it was only maybe a tenth or so per straight, which he might be able to get away with pretty decently. They might even... the problem we do have is, I know when we were at Le Mans, I'll tell you this now because he's gone. Adam Bath crashed the car in the first stint that we that we did, and it just slightly bent the rear wing, and we had horrible straight line speed issues for pretty much the rest of for the next 20 hours or so. We had a problem with the straight line speed, and whereas in real life they'd probably just either put a new rear wing on or just hit it with a hammer or something. Like they don't. Unfortunately, that doesn't get repaired in iRacing. So
yeah, it'd be nice if iRacing could do something like that, especially now a good example I should say too, because they do. I have noticed they have done this with the Daytona prototypes. I don't know if they've done it with the LMP ones. Oh well,
that's Forrest Landy. I can hear him.
Yep, there he is right there.
Let's see exactly how that happened. I think I know what you're going to say, but we will just have a quick look at this.
Yeah.
We will just have a quick look at this anyway. Of Landy into the...
Dude,
it's that rear end of that
just,
PMF Motorsports car as well. Again.
It looks like he turned the wheel early. I don't know. That was an edge because I didn't.
He came in on a very straight line, didn't he? And then he
just really
yanked
the wheel.
Yeah.
I was expecting the rears to lock up again because if you have the brake, because one good thing with these Porsche cars is if you have the brake bias wrong or if you have the brake bias a little too far in the rear, that car, if you lock up the tires, the rears will lock up first, and you can easily snap the car around.
Oh yeah, if you throw it in without enough weight on the rear, or too much weight on the rear, it will do exactly that. We can see ahead. There were two cars close together actually. I'm trying to figure out who they were, but it was a yellow Ferrari. Michael Key it was. I think it was Eric Violet going past him. But yeah, sorry, the idea was to look at David Payton because David Payton should be able to see just ahead of him. There he is. Should be able to see Michael Ruddock right in the distance, look.
Yep, Ruddock's going into turn 1 now. And Patton's only 4.5 seconds gap actually for Michael Ruddock to David Patton. So still pretty close there for second overall.
More issues for Landy. I'm going to spare him the blushes this time, I think, as it's just not happening for him, I'm afraid. Dropping down the order quite badly.
Honestly, I wonder if he has the brake bias too far in the rear and it's just getting on the brakes too hard and the rear's just locking up too much.
He might have to pit for tyres, because he wasn't going that slowly, to be honest. Before all that stuff started, he was in 4th place before these crashes and things.
Well, he did just pit back on lap 57, so
yeah, he's just had a really bad few laps. He's got some decent pace in the car, but yeah, he just can't quite get it right. Coming back to your point though on damage, I think you were going to say that they can remove the rear section and the front section on the prototypes. Is that what you were going to get at?
Yeah, they can do that for the prototypes. I'm curious on if the LMP1s do that because watching last season's World Endurance series, because at first I wasn't able to keep track of the off season where they did some rule changes. One of the rule changes that they did was now where you can be able to work on the car and modify the car while they're fueling, because the season before, no one was able to touch the car until the fueling was done. When I want to say it was Silverstone this year, and as well as the 24 Hours of Le Mans, where where fuel goes in, crewmen are already changing out tires. All of a sudden, I see 2 or 3 guys disconnect the rear of the car, and they plug in a different wing for the rear.
Yeah.
So I wonder if iRacing could possibly do something like that. That's why I'm curious on if LMP1s, if you damage that rear.
I think you can take the front section off. I've done a commentating on a couple of races with those, and they.
I wonder.
I'm
It's
pretty
the one
sure
thing I
they
wonder
had.
now.
I'm pretty
I
sure
wonder
they've
if they
taken the
can
front
do.
section away.
I wonder if they can be. I wonder if they can do that with the rear as well.
I think they
not,
can. Yeah.
Yeah, because that'll be very curious. Because that'll be.
But
really,
the problem is, in reality, for these cars though, for the Porsche and the Ferrari,
that's where the difficulty is.
I don't think they do that with those. Yeah, exactly. So they have to literally put a new wing on. But
Take
I do think that should
it
be
to
an
the
option.
garage.
I do think that should be an option though, to take it into the garage and put a new wing on it. Because if there was a box for you to check where it says repair the wing, yes or no.
Yeah, and it can be a certain amount of time, like especially with real life, like if there's an accident where it's a good example with these Porsches, like if the Porsche loses a rear wing, they could be able to go into the garage, unscrew the rear wings, put in a new one, screw them in, probably be about like a good 4 or 5 minutes or so, depending on how complicated or how simple it is to replace.
I mean, to me, I mean, if it's anything like replacing an F1 rear wing or something like that, that usually takes about a couple of minutes, I think. But it's not as it's more complicated than I think some of these are. So to me, if they could just bolt on literally a new rear wing, I mean, with the damage we had at Le Mans, we had 21. I think we had 22 hours left to run with that damage. I would have taken 30 seconds to a minute in the pits to get that fixed and get back to the normal speed. Because we probably lost... I'd hesitate to say we lost a couple of laps because of our straight line speed. Probably lost more than a couple of laps. Because we were stuck behind... There was a Ford GT in particular that we were much quicker than. With probably 2 seconds... but I couldn't get past him for ages and ages and ages. As soon as I got past him, I finally did him into, I think it was Indianapolis or something like that. I finally just went past him because I'd had enough. So I threw it up the inside, went through. And as soon as I got in front, just at the Porsche curves, I took a second and a half out of him in the Porsche curves. But because we didn't have that straight line speed, we just simply couldn't overtake him. Or if we got in front of him, say if we got in front of him, say if we overtook him like into turn 1 or the first chicane or something like that, he would just be straight back past. So I overtook him just at the right time to then be able to absolutely run away from him. And we couldn't believe just how ridiculous it was that we'd spent half an hour behind this guy because we just couldn't overtake him. But if we'd have repaired the wing, yeah, we'd have probably come out 30 to 45 seconds behind this guy, but when we did catch him, we would have never seen him again.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually reminding me, too, of VLN this year, the 24 hours. I know there was one of the Audi R8s had an issue, and I'm almost curious how often iRacing watch some of the real-life races, because some of the new developments now that have been going on with these race cars, like I know for the Audi R8 from the 24-hour Nürburgring they had, I think there was at one point I saw an Audi R8 get involved in an accident, and they were able to take apart the whole front half of the Audi, like the lights and everything, all the way up close to the windshield, and put on a brand new one in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, because I remember that they really stacked it in the Porsche curves, didn't they? And he was buried in the tyre barrier. I don't even remember who it was. I don't even know, something like Felipe Albuquerque or something like that. But
I think it was.
Absolutely stacked it into the wall. Big, massive damage. And then, they took it out, just bolted the front section on, and it was away. Just a comment on the chat, actually, saying that you can change the front and rear bumper lip and spoiler clip, everything on a GTE car, similar to how you change on the LMP1 car in a pit stop in real life. So I imagine then that you can take those off in some certain sections then, it appears.
Yeah, that would be because that would be really helpful, especially for some of these. Especially for some competition, especially.
Yeah, because if you're going to simulate endurance racing, I think you have to have that
Yeah.
ability to just say, right, guys, it's knackered. We need to put a new one on, and carry on the way, and get the car back to full strength.
Yeah, exactly. Which it'll be really interesting to see, especially because the big disadvantage is, especially a good example with Bathurst, 12-hour Bathurst coming up. That is a real big key as well. I mean, 12-hour race, and that's going to be downforce is going to be a key there, but a clean race car at the same time. And the GT3s are where it's really struggles. Like a good example with how Nathan Thomas has that damage. It's that's going to be a real difficult aspect is the GT3s. They don't have that luxury.
Well, no, and that's the thing is that I just think it'd just make for better racing, because especially in those big long races where you wouldn't see a team that has damage in the first half an hour. The thing is, you can get that kind of wing damage in these cars just by somebody slightly hitting you up the rear end, like in turn 1 or something stupid, and then you've got that damage for the whole 24 hours. In reality, like you say, you would take a half a minute or a minute, get the wing off, put a new wing on, fuel the car up, you're away. In the grand scheme of things, you've maybe lost 40 seconds, and then you can get that back because you're not losing it all the time in a straight line like Schiffler
Exactly.
and Vigas and that were, and Thomas. To be fair, looking at Thomas's lap times, they're a little slower than what they were before, but not by much. So I think he's got around that. It is for 7 seconds between Thomas and List.
Yeah, it is slowly dropping, but the lap times right now are about the same. Last lap time across the line was, the last lap time across the line was a 1:45.22, and then Jim List ran a 1:45.25. So 0.03 of a second difference there. Even though the gap is slowly dropping, but it's not drastically dropping. So it seems right now, as we're probably about almost 20 minutes to go in the race, that as long as Nathan doesn't have a bus stop incident again, it's going to be a real tall task for Jim to catch up.
That's the gap on your screen, Tyler, and 10.8 seconds it was on lap 54. You can see where Thomas had his issue. It went down to under 10 seconds. But then it has increased back. It did increase back up to nearly 11 seconds. It's gradually coming down again. 7.3. It was 6.4. 6.5. It was over the line. So, List is taking 0.4 of a second out of him per lap. It's going to be close because there's 24 minutes left.
It's going to be.
Well, I say it's going to be close. It's going to be a battle.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to Jim's gonna have to run quicker lap times over and over to catch up.
David Alessi then has been in the wars in the Welligan Racing Porsche.
Ooh, full lockup there, boy, oh boy.
I mean, he was quite lucky that there was that concrete runoff area where he was, because some places he would have been straight into a tyre wall.
Yeah, he would have been. That would have been really bad luck for them, because after that was a good time to lock up, and especially having that little runoff, that could have been ugly.
Still in the game though, damn it, Lacey, and keeps going in 7th place for car 69. Giggity giggity. Now, Kevin Ford's in P6, and he's just minding his own business out there. He's run a decent race, to be honest. Kevin Ford in a car that, I don't know how much he's driven it. Like I say, he's very competitive in the Mustang. This one may be a little bit less common for him, but doing a good job out there. One of the league admins, as is Jeff Jacobs, in 5th position in the StreetSurvival.org car.
And David Alessi is in the pits, probably getting fresh tires, especially after probably flat spotting those two front tires, because that was a long slide he
Would
had
not
there.
have surprised me at all if he's completely ruined his fronts doing that. Jim List is still over 6 seconds behind Nathan Thomas. So again, you know.
It is dropping, though.
Yeah.
That gap is dropping, but not quick. Only by probably a half a second now, as right now the last lap time, Nathan Thomas ran a 1:45.3 and Jim List ran a 1:44.8. So about 5/10 of a second there is the difference. So it's still dropping, but it's not quick enough to where Nathan Thomas has to panic yet. So it's just more consistency for Nathan Thomas, and he should be okay.
Yes. He's doing well, to be fair, with the damage. He's not letting it really affect him too much. And of course, this is for a victory, is this battle? So, well, yeah, class victory. It could be on the cards for Thomas. You know what, though? I will say, Tyler, when I came into this lobby and saw there were only 13 cars in the race, I wasn't too sure about how this one would go, but we've seen a lot more action, I think, than what we maybe thought there would be. But also the competitiveness of the field has been very high. You know, everybody's given their all and really, you know, brought us a really well-driven race. I mean, there's been only a handful of mistakes. We've had no contact between drivers as far as I'm aware, so very cleanly driven race, and one that hopefully will give us a thrilling last 20 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's been really impressive overall by these group of drivers. So it'll be curious to see how this goes. I mean, especially the pace will probably start increasing pretty soon by a lot of these drivers trying to get the last few seconds in, trying to catch up to some other competitors. So we might get some really good battles near the end, but it'll be interesting because, I mean, it's been a lot of battling off and on by all of these drivers.
Well, looking at Mike Ruddock, he's got David Payton for company. And, there goes Landy again.
Landy is just strong. I think Forrest Landy needs to, if he doesn't have a brake bias adjuster set up on his wheel, I would recommend doing that, because
He just needs to settle down a bit, doesn't he, really?
Yeah, that too, because shouldn't be locking up the tires, especially the rear tires, that much.
I think he has to just try and mitigate that somehow, however he can, really. Mike Ruddock is in second place, driving a really, really solid run for Flying Tortoise Motorsports with Russell Ruddock, and he's coming under threat then from David Payton at Coaxial Racing, but it's still 1.5 seconds, so
yeah,
if you
lap
can
times
keep
are
him at
pretty
arm's
close.
reach, if you can keep him at arm's reach, then potentially, you know, he can get away with this, but Payton is closing. But not by much on that last lap, though. It was only 300s.
Yeah, we should be getting some lap times now coming through. Yeah, this time it was 1/10 of a second, so it's still a very small margin. But I mean, but gap's a lot closer compared to like Nathan Thomas and Jim List. But it's still an opportunity, because for David Patton, all he has to do is get within. I believe either it's a second or it might be 0.8 of a second to get in that draft. And once he's in that draft, it's game on.
Ruddock's driving well. Like I say, keeping just that distance ahead where David can't catch him. Michael Keys in the pits in the Frito Sport car from 12th place. In for the third time, I think that might be for them. I'll confirm that for you in a minute. But
yeah, I want to say that's the third time.
Can I just say, Tyler, what a stint for Robert Hartley, because I mean, he was only 15 or so seconds in front. What seems like maybe half an hour ago, and he seems to have extended.
All of a sudden, it's almost a full minute
59
now.
59 seconds. I mean, he's obviously just been winding himself up slowly.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's almost a full minute gap, and he's almost nearly have lapped the GTD field. He's only I want to say he's only 10 seconds out from lapping the GTD field.
Oh,
Because
here comes
Ooh.
Peyton.
Here we go now. This battle's on.
Oh, he's not going to
15 minutes to go too.
It's not really going to get close here. Oh, good drive out of the corner though. Twitch from Ruddock. But again, plenty of time for Peyton to make this move. He doesn't have to rush. They've got they've got over 20-second lead over Iannucci because in fact he's coming into the pits. So really, it's probably going to be Jeff Jacobs. Yeah,
50-second gap to Jacobs. So pretty much they're locked in for podium right now. As long as they don't make it, as long as both of them don't make a mistake, because both of them will be locked into the podium.
This is the battle then. How is it going to be done? Does Peyton have... Is he going to throw it up the inside into the first corner, is he? Or is he going to take a chance somewhere else on the circuit? We don't know.
I think
the beauty of it.
I think Patton's going to wait until like the last lap.
Well,
yeah, Patton's given some room.
I mean, maybe not the last lap, but I probably wouldn't leave it that late. But I think, yeah, maybe 2 laps from the end, something like that. Maybe have a go, try and pull away. He's quick enough to me that he can pull away if he gets in front in turn 1, and I think that's what he can do.
Here we go.
Because he's strongest in that first sector. Here he goes then to the outside, through the tri-oval they come to start lap 70.
Side by side, not getting any gain though.
Oh, very late on the brakes then. Oh, 2 always wide. He's hit the cones.
Oh, he had to lock up though. He almost had a big run, but he had to check up a little bit to not get into Michael Ruddock.
Oh, look how close the Ferrari gets.
Oh, here we go.
Wide for Ruddock, but he keeps it, using that momentum on the outside to just stay ahead of David Peyton.
Yeah, Peyton had to really snug to the inside line, so here we go. It should be a better run.
I will say I don't know whether it's Peyton or Patton, so it could be either.
I want to say Pat.
To be fair, that's probably how it's written, so I'll probably go with you. No doubt I'll find out that that's wrong, and later on, I've been right all this time. Who knows? But it doesn't happen often. But Ruddock is still in front. But David has got a great run on him. He's just less than a tenth apart.
Yeah,
he takes to the high line. Is he going to use the gravity?
Nope. He checked up a little bit. Oh, maybe not. Oh, this is gonna be. Yeah, that was a safe bet there. Trying to check up a little bit going in the bus stop.
You don't want to risk everything there because that could be curtains for both of them.
This is gonna be the big key for Patton. I honestly think Patton's trying to get the best run off on Ruddock. And if Patton can get a better run out of that bus stop on Michael Ruddock, Patton's got the more opportunity to get this huge draft like he is right now. Get up on that high line and beat him to the line.
Well, Ruddock is running right on the yellow line, which is, of course, you can't overtake on that yellow line while you're on the oval section. Oh, dear me. Super, super close. Look at this. We've got a face full of Ferrari here.
Going way on outside in, trying to do an undercut. It's just not working. Ooh, a little wheel spin there too.
David Alessi's crashed once more in the Welligan Racing car, so he's been struggling out there a little bit in this one. We've seen a few drivers struggling in their respective stints, but this Daytona International Circuit serving up a really good race once more for us. Rob Hartley looks like he's going to take the win. He's 63 seconds ahead, so I don't think there's any danger of that unless obviously something befalls him, which we don't want to happen, but realistically that's the only way he's not going to take it. Michael Ruddock and David Peyton, please tell us at some point what that is. In second and third, they're battling hard over the last 2 steps on the podium. Nathan Thomas and Jim List are 5.9 seconds apart. There are only about 18 seconds between the 3 cars. 8th, 9th and 10th, but there's a big mistake by Ruddick.
He's got to take the advantage now.
But is it going to be enough? Because we've seen before cars get really good runs straight out of that last corner.
He's got it. Patton's got it. There was no way that Ruddick could be able to get the speed back up in time after that big sideways motion he had. I mean,
he needs to have a go back.
Tires.
He needs to have a go back if he wants this. And he can't. He can't do it. He doesn't have it.
Yeah,
Ruddick.
Ruddick lit up the back tires with that huge tank slapper he had. I honestly thought Ruddick was going to hit the wall and wipe out Patton. I thought that was going to be the end for both. That was huge.
So let's have a little look. Whoops. That wasn't the right button. I was going to say let's have a look at that, but I don't think we can actually go back to the actual the actual issue from that, I'm afraid. So but yeah, he got a real tank slapper on, and did well to keep it pointing in the right direction, to be honest.
Yeah, Ruddick just lost all the ground, all the speed possible. That lining up the tires like he did, I don't know if Ruddick's going to have an answer for Patton after that.
Well, we'll see. I think that's the beauty of it, but I do agree with you, mate. To be honest, I do think that his goose is cooked in terms of that second place. Already 1.3 seconds behind. I think that one is pretty much done and dusted. What I was saying before is, despite some of the problems for Mr. Landy back there, he's actually only 5 seconds or so. 7 seconds behind Jim List, and he's 5 seconds ahead of Eric Violet. So I don't think there's going to be much movement in there, but really he'll be kicking himself with all the mistakes that he's made in the last in the second half of the race, because he's had the speed out there to be top 6.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree with that.
There's Jim List. You can hear the growl of the Mercedes going through the middle sector. Sounds a lot different to anything else out there. There's the Merc as well.
Yep, definitely.
See the spread of cars fairly even in terms of the successes. Porsche first and fourth, and Ferrari second and third. One Ford in there, and then Mercedes winning the GTD class. In fairness, there were 4 Mercedes and only 1 Ferrari in that, so it's it's not the best statistic I've ever given, but it is it is a good day for Mercedes anyway. Best lap time of the race, Pasquale Iannucci, 141.721. And they've all made 2 stops, apart from Iannucci, Alessi, and Key, who've been to the pits 3 times.
Yep. Still not a bad run by Jim List, though. I mean, that gap really hasn't changed much, unfortunately. I think Nathan's finally gotten it down enough where he's able to be a little bit more consistent and relaxed after that little incident.
Yeah, exactly. But and to be honest, that it's shown really that the car's not really affecting him too much. That damage isn't really going to make a much of a problem for him. So that's good. Because I would have hated that one mistake to be the reason why, you lose the race. Because let's face it, 2 hours and 15 minutes, pretty much everybody's going to have at least one mistake. Such a minor error by Thomas, and yet, very nearly wrote off the car. He was very lucky actually that he just hit where he did and not maybe full on, because that could have been a major problem. It could have ended up like Tyler Schiffler and Clint Vigus' car did with the damage earlier on. Just having a look down the list, and I tell you what, I know we mentioned them earlier on. We mentioned them a lot in the first hour. and not much since. But Pasquale Iannucci in the Crypto G orange car, P4 on the track. Hell of a recovery drive, really, Tyler. Because
Yeah.
they were down and out. They were a lap down. They were done and dusted, and all the other cliches that I can find.
Yeah, and that was especially after what happened with Mike Dam. Yeah, Pascal really did well on bringing this back. He had to pit one more time just to get top off of fuel and everything, which will lead to him running some of the quicker lap times. But with the about 5 minutes to go in the race, not much Pascal can do on being able to try to fight for a podium. But still a great performance though on trying to catch it back up after Mike Dam had losing internet and dropping out of the race, unfortunately, which it could have been a completely different story between both Iannucci and Hartley for Cryptology and Excitus. That would have been a really good battle as well for overall.
That one would have run and run, I think. So yeah, it's lap 76 here at Daytona. Just over 4 minutes to go in this one, and I think it's only fair, Tyler, that we have a look at the man who's leading the race, Rob Hartley.
Yeah, Hartley's just unbelievable drive. Already almost a minute and 10 seconds now. The gap. It's right now a minute and 7, but by the time this race is over, it'll be already in a minute and 10 seconds. I mean, just the unbelievable drive by Robert Hartley, and it was all just because of the bad luck that Pascal Iannucci and the Cryptology Orange team had with the internet drop on Mike Dam. Otherwise, this race could have been turned up on its heels very quick-like.
He's a terrific driver, Rob Hartley. We know he is. We know. Just quickly, Joe Ferguson on the chat. Did anyone else just lose the sound? Yes, that was intentional. Sorry from my part. Yeah, I just had to mute for about 30 seconds, but yeah, that was it basically. So yeah, that's it. So yeah, so sorry about that, but I can't make any excuses. It just happened.
We didn't mean to scare you. Sorry,
yeah,
guys.
That's it. No, we're all good. We're all good. No, it would have been awful if it was just a prank, wouldn't it? And I just turned the sound off for no reason, just to make everyone think that. No, certainly wasn't that. No, I'm not awake enough to be. Oh my goodness, Hartley, just coming out of
I was about to say, I just saw that
turn one, just having a moment, shall we say? But keeping it in the right direction, and as we've said all night, that is the most important thing. You don't want those little mistakes to be the ones that bite you. 1 minute and 7 second lead. It's just been pretty flawless from him and Travis Schwenke, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And just pulling away like this, I mean, it's just been an unbelievable ride, especially with this driver combo that both these guys have together. I mean, some of the quickest drivers in iRacing altogether on the roadside, and it just shows how much of a dominance they have.
Yeah, and they're going to be hard to beat for the remainder of the Ricmotech World Challenge, I'll tell you that now. And but I do think if Dam and Iannucci have a reliable performance, I do think that they will be. I do think that they will be up there. You know, there's definitely every chance of them taking wins along the way, because they are a match for Hartley and Schwenke. That is for sure.
Yeah, and I can agree with that, because I
mean, how many times has Mike Dam won the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, and Travis Schwenke has taken the title in the Mazda and many race wins. So this is a dominant race, yes it is. But it'll be definitely, Yeah, and this is true. When you have such a lead, you hardly ever get talked about. That is true. But having said that, if you don't get talked about, it means you're doing your job really well, and that's what you, that's what you want, I guess.
Yeah.
I'd love. Hey, look, I would give anything to see that 1 minute and 8 seconds lead by my name in the, at the end of the race. Very rarely in my career has that ever happened.
Same here.
I know we had a big red moon last night, but it's a once in a blue moon that it happens for me. So through the infield then, possibly for the last time. I think it will be for the last time for Rob Hartley.
I think so.
He's coming to the bus stop, and as long as he makes it through here, Tyler, it looks like he's home free.
Yeah, well, even then, if he makes a mistake, I mean, he's got a nice little cushion. He doesn't have to panic too much, as long as he doesn't really mess up and completely destroy the engine. That's the only thing that could really hurt him. Yeah, he took that bus stop very cautiously, so he was making sure he didn't make a mistake.
Here we go then. Round the banking for the final time. Lap 78 here at Daytona International Speedway. It's been a dominant performance by Rob Hartley and Travis Schwenke and Excite Energy Racing. And they're coming to the flag now to take the win here in the Ricmotech World Challenge. Rob Hartley bringing it home, and bring it home in style. We've got some way to wait for the next competitors over the line in terms of the winners, at least. Nathan Thomas, you see him. He's coming through, and in fact we've got David Payton just behind him, so we're going to see Thomas taking the win for Driftline Racing in the GTD class in the Mercedes. He just needs to negotiate the bus stop. Still 7.5 seconds ahead of Jim List, whose challenge faded in the last couple of laps, but always Thomas just having enough, Tyler, for the win.
Absolutely, yeah, and it looks like that gap gained a little bit from Jim List. I don't know if Jim List had a mistake every now and then, but even still, it was just great driving by Nathan Thomas, being able to take advantage, come back from making that early mistake when they did the switch, and being able to come away with the GTD win. Great run by Nathan.
There we go. As the GTD is the class. The only initial that matters is W, because that's what he's done. He's gone and won this one, and 7 seconds ahead of List. And coming home also in second place overall was David Payton, P2, Michael Ruddock in P3, and then Jim List second in the GTD class, of course. And everybody is nearly finished.
Actually, I think everyone has finished. I think everyone's crossed the line.
I think they've just come across, haven't they? I think Iannucci maybe just, they're coming into the pits, aren't they? So they are done then. So should be able to bring the results up onto the screen. Here we go. So Rob Hartley with the win, ahead of David Payton by 1 minute and 9 seconds. Michael Ruddock in third, then Pasquale Iannucci in fourth, Jeff Jacobs in fifth, Kevin Ford in sixth, Nathan Thomas seventh, eighth for Jim List, ninth for Eric Violet, 10th for Forrest Landy, David Alessi in 11th, 12th Michael Key, and then Clint Vigas decided to call it a day in 13th, and Ryan Cobb was in the steward's box and did not take the start. So, Tyler, that is pretty much all we've got time for today. I do apologise to the drivers. I know there's guys waiting for the interviews, but we are very tight on time tonight specifically. So we will make that up to you in the next one. But well done to everybody out there. And Tyler, thank you for joining me, mate. I've really enjoyed it.
Definitely. It was definitely great racing overall to watch. So I enjoyed it, especially even though with the long race, but it was still great just to see in some of the battles. It was awesome. I enjoyed it. Can't wait for next week.
Terrific race, well driven, and very entertaining for us and for the fans at home. And don't forget as well to go and visit ricmotech.com for the sim racing products, and proforma etg.com if you need graphics and anything like that. They're the people for that. And don't forget to head on over to Apex Racing TV's YouTube channel, which of course you are on already. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, because YouTube doesn't always put the videos in your subscriptions feed. So if you do want to see more from us, then please get the bell on, as they would say, and we shall appear. All right then. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here in the early hours of the morning for the Ricmotech World Challenge. He's been Tyler Vickery. I've been Andrew Woodhouse. From all of us here, it's good night.